Now, there's been much criticism of late over the Free State Province's decision to spend around R40 million designing a website for use by its departments and municipalities. ENCA did a similar one for a fraction of the cost. But it does beg the question, doesn't it? Who should you give your web design project to? Kohlstadt from Shift One Digital has listed 5 types of people who should not be allowed near a keyboard. What you're saying is that everyone, when it comes to a website, is an expert, but you're saying keep the amateurs away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that what happens typically, is that everybody tries to interfere?
Yes, and starting with the bosses, they usually have the biggest opinions, and because they do your performance review and your performance appraisal and they pay your salary, their opinion holds sway. And unfortunately, they don't represent the users in a lot of cases. So websites designed by bosses can tend to be difficult to navigate, and not necessarily the best.
They are footing the bill, though. They must have some sort of influence, surely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's difficult when you're dealing with your boss too. You have to be diplomatic, and you have to listen to what they're saying. And the best thing to do is to actually have a few users test the boss's ideas, and have the boss sit in and he'll see whether it works or not.
But point one here is take in what they say, but try to keep them away if you can.
If you can.
So that's tick one. The second one is what you call the hardcore sales people who are marketing or who are product managers. I mean, surely, Dylan, they must add some value. After all, they are using the website for a specific reason.
Exactly, and the best thing is for them to tell the website manager what they're looking for and let the website manager interpret that in the best possible way. But when they start dictating, the website starts becoming filled with banners, and there's something called banner blindness, which means people don't actually look at the banner. So if you have a huge flashing block saying sale, 50% reduction, whatever the case might be, a lot of times the eye does not follow and actually skirts around that block. So yeah, you need to deal with them also diplomatically. Don't let them put a big flashing...
If bosses are providing the vision, so to speak, if they're providing the cash for something like this, what true value are the sales or marketing people providing to the web?
Take on board their objectives. They're there to push the products, and you need to then balance that with, obviously, you've got Google to consider, your SEO requirements, you've got your user to consider, and you've also got the general branding and the perception of the website. You know, the first thing people ask themselves when they land on your website is, where am I? What can I do here? What's in it for me? What should I do next? And if that isn't immediately apparent to the user, you're going to lose your user. And as it is, 94% of people click away from the website within the first couple of seconds. You want to decrease that so that you've got more people staying on your website longer and engaging more with the website. So if there's too much clutter and too much going on, you're going to lose more of your customers and just
But it's a fine balance, because you also have a job to do in terms of business. So you want to declutter, but you've also got to make sure that there is enough relevant working information and is aesthetically pleasing.
100%. Ask yourself, what is the user here to do? What do they want? Not what am I here to push? What does the user need? What are they looking for at this website? And just make sure that you've answered that question. Whatever the user wants, give them what they want.
How often haven't you been part of a process where you've got some poor guy who's doing it, and standing around the back of the chair is the large committee, everyone who has an input. Everyone has a vested interest. They're all important stakeholders as far as this is concerned, but you have to find a way of I was going to say getting rid of them completely, but decluttering the environment.
The most difficult process in a web design would be where a committee is involved, because everybody feels like they need to make a contribution. They want to show how they are earning their salary and deserve to be paid top dollar. So they've got loud opinions about things, and there's a term, death by committee, for a reason. Design by committee is a disaster, because you end up watering everything down. You don't achieve the business's objectives, and you don't satisfy the customer's objectives. So you end up with a website that's half-hearted and a mishmash, and I promise you'll end up redesigning it in a year's time.
The next one are graphic designers.
Yes.
God bless them. Okay, but you say that they can be a hindrance sometimes.
Yes. Usually the first point of call when a website is briefed in is the graphic designer. He's told, produce a website. In their defense, they literally have to sometimes suck the whole thing out of their thumb, because they have no idea where to start, and so they start
because
with
of a poor brief.
A poor brief. It all starts with a poor brief. And often the client, well, most of the time the client is the problem, because they say, I want it to look like this, it must look like this, it must do that. So the graphic designer, their objective is to design something beautiful. And unfortunately, a beautiful web design isn't often functional. They like to mess with the navigation, where I like to keep it static in one place, logo in one place, and it must be consistent throughout the website. You know, if you give it to a graphic designer, they'll put the navigation in the middle, or they will swirl it around the edges in a circle, and it confuses the user. You know, you don't want your user sitting trying to figure out the website before
clicking away.
Before clicking away, yeah. Or you want them to actually know exactly where they are, what needs to be done, and within a few seconds know whether they want to click or not.
That's one end of the spectrum,
yeah.
But at the other end of the spectrum, you politely call this group the technically proficient. I'll just call them the geeks. And you've got to find a way of bringing them in, and there's also got to be some sort of communication, I would imagine, between the technically proficient and the visually inclined.
100%,
somewhere in the middle
yeah.
is the optimum website.
It's a very difficult balance because the techies want you to start with them, but I like to have something to show them before I call all the techies into a meeting to say this is what we're planning, but they like to be consulted beforehand so that all of their considerations can be put into the brief that goes to the graphic designer. So they're actually the point that you should start at. Make sure they're happy, otherwise they may not buy into the website if you've got a big web department. And then what happens is if you just give it to a techie to design and you don't specify things like your error messaging, he's going to specify the error messaging. And that's usually what happens is you'll say, give me a sign-up form, and you don't specify what is the error messaging if they don't enter their name. He's going to specify it, and he's going to do it in his typical techie way, which is very blunt,
geek speak.
Geek speak.